This is the greatest moment in my life.
Hey, yo! See, to anyone joining us now, they got no idea.
That's it. No context, and you'll not find out either why I just did that.
Exactly. Maxi, it's WrestleMania week.
It is, and we are gearing up to watch some Gilbert potentially next week.
Oh, crying out loud.
It doesn't feel bastards.
It doesn't feel like WrestleMania week, does it?
Do you not think so? I'm actually really enjoying the build with Cody. I think it's been different. It's been fun.
Okay, see, that's probably the problem. I've not watched much of it. So.
Well, there you go. Is it WrestleMania? How would you know? I haven't watched since last WrestleMania.
Well, to be fair, that's not far off. But I mean, even stuff like the Hall of Fame is like one of my favorite nights of the year. I love it. I mean, they added Stacy Keibler in the last couple of hours to this year's.
Rey Mysterio's going in.
Oh yeah, Rey Mysterio. I get that, but there's only 4 inductees as we stand. The Hall of Fame is 5 nights away. You know, it just doesn't seem like a big deal.
I mean, the good thing is, if you need that fix, you're going to get some Hall of Lame at least today.
Well, this is true. I got a stormer for the Hall of Lame this week, mate.
Well, I don't think it's better than man, but here we go.
Oh, challenges. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it don't feel like WrestleMania week to me. I mean, I'm gonna watch Raw tomorrow. Well, I'll scan through it at least. And SmackDown's on the same night as the Hall of Fame ceremony now, isn't it? And you know, so I'll probably check that out on the Saturday. But yeah, it's like they just don't feel. Maybe I'm getting older. I don't know.
I mean, that is very true. You are incredibly old.
You're older than me.
Yeah, but I don't act my age, whereas you do.
Do you think? Yeah.
No, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a really good WrestleMania this year.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done pretty well. I think since you had 32, which was a horrific Mania. I think they've upped the game for the showcase of the Mortals, and especially in the pandemic era when it was a struggle watching the likes of Drew McIntyre celebrating to nobody.
Yeah,
I think they've really kind of put lots of effort in. So yeah, I'm excited for it.
I suppose in ring as well. You look at it, Rollins, Logan Paul should be pretty decent, I imagine. You know, the triple threat for the IC title sounds good as well.
The tag titles with the Usos against Kevin and Sammy. That should be good. I mean, Charlotte Flair versus Rhea. That'll be a banger.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay, I'm more excited now. You've won me over. Forget,
Brock versus Omos.
Oh my god!
I hope that headline's that too.
It's not gonna.
I hope it does.
When that was announced, I thought we got weeks and weeks and weeks before Mania. This isn't going to happen. Somehow or another, this is going to lead into something else, and Brock is going to be doing something else. But here we are, 6 days away, and I'm thinking, oh shit, that's actually going to be on the card, isn't it?
You know, he'll open one of the nights, and then by the time the second match has started, Brock has gone home.
Yeah. Well, Cena, Austin Theory is opening night 1, apparently.
It is, yeah, apparently so. I mean, that's going to be a good match.
There we go.
So yeah, there's a lot to be excited for, Si, you pessimist.
Yeah, okay. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. There we go. You in the last 4.5 minutes or however long
I've done more to get you interested in WrestleMania than the whole of Raw and SmackDown.
And the news that after WrestleMania we're going to get a new title belt. Apparently Triple H has ordered a new one to be made. So.
Yes, because he's going to split the Uwu titles.
Yes. Bringing back the big gold, I hope, mate.
Nah, the old winged eagle.
Oh,
Cody has got form as well. I mean, he brought back a bastardized version of the RC title, if you remember.
Yeah, he did.
So he may bring back a WWE version of the winged eagle.
Yeah, I suppose. He's got to win first.
Listen, it's tacked on that guy's winning. That story of him leaving to go to form another company to come back, he's got to win, Annie, surely.
Yeah, you'd think so. You'd think so. But I thought it was tacked on for Edge to win last year. Was it last year?
That's true. And the time that everyone thought that that Roman was beating Brock, and they switched it on the day, and Brock threw the title at Vincent said, "Fuck off, you prick."
Oh, fantastic. Anyway, Maxie, we're 6 minutes in nearly already.
Jesus, it's
Look
all
at this, eh?
we had a 15-minute match to review.
Well, true. So we better begin. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever and whenever you'll be listening or watching from. This is Chain Wrestling Live with Mags and Sai, an SJP World Media production, episode 114. I am Sai, and with me, as always, is the sold out to my air fried Sprite, nom nom nom.
Oh,
The
you
pound
stupid
stretcher to
twat.
my suspected lecture, but never charged. Never charged. A podcaster that, like the NWO in 1997, runs his own pay-per-views, onlymags.com. The podfather himself, Lord Mags. I would ask how you're doing, sir, like I normally do, but I know you're poorly again, mate, aren't you?
I'm always. I mean, we were talking just before we started the show, and I am sick to the back teeth of being poorly. I can't since having COVID. I cannot shake a cold or a sore throat. It's just absolutely annoying. I will tell you this morning, I thought I was going to have to bail again on the show because I sounded like my balls had dropped with the voice. It was like ridiculous. But
Well, it would have been about time, to be fair.
yeah, I mean the wife still feels disgusted about the balls being tied up there. But yeah, I made it to the show because that went dark. I hope she's not watching.
Yeah, that's
sorry,
funny,
love. I didn't mean to spill the beans there. Didn't mean to
it's not the first
spill
time
the
you said
tea.
that either. Yeah, it's funny, man. Poorly. It must be like long COVID or something. You must be like,
Yeah,
there's
I'm
something
dying.
going on.
I'm just
Yeah.
dying.
Yeah,
I've hit my peak, and now it's just a quick drop.
Well, this is it. Middle aged, mate. That's the thing. Apparently, if we are
Crazy.
supposed to be middle aged with our current, ages
Age.
now,
With our current age.
but that means that in theory, that means if I am middle aged, that means I should live till 84. So I'll take that. That's not bad innings.
I don't want to be here at 84. Can
No.
you imagine what this world is going to be like in another 40 odd years?
It'll be
It's
fine.
grim
for me
now.
Yeah, but it'll be fine for me because I'm not going to understand any of it. So
Yeah. Alzheimer's is already kicking in.
I'll be oblivious. It'll be fine. Magsy, who has joined us in the chat?
Well, we had a very early start with Chris Bellis. Hello, sir. How are you? I hope you're still around.
He hasn't put his clocks forward, has he?
That's brilliant. The wife's been complaining today. I can't put the clock forward in the car. I can't put the clock forward in it. So I've left it to it. Sharon with the weekly, the expected. It's Monday night. You know what that means. Cam Griffin, the Gilbert #1 fan in the chat. Hello, sir. How are you? King's Pig's Bladder as well. Hello to you, sir. Dan Griffin, good evening to you. Cam again saying yes. Oh, I felt old doing that. That's never let me do that again. Sharon says, Charlie says, hi, CWF. Well, hello to you, Charlie. Dan Griffin preparing himself early for potential next week. I mean, you've done stage 1. You've still got to get to stage 2 and voting Gilbert in if it gets put up. We'll see about that.
Just for clarification, it's WrestleMania weekend. We could be looking at so much great wrestling.
Deserves it.
Oh,
Uncle Juicy TV, Gilbert is dirtier than my babe station wanks. I mean, Gilbert is a struggle of a wank, to be fair, but manageable.
Hi, Charlie.
if only there was a Gilbert versus Barry Horowitz match. I mean, wow, what a clash of the Titans. Jesus Christ. What Hall of Fame or an appearance on CWF? I mean, there, exactly. Gilbert doesn't need a Hall of Fame because he potentially will be on CWF. Connor, hello, sir. How are you? Scottish Danny in the chat. Hello to you, Stabber. Cam says, as Kingsman's Banner says, Dan's missed an opportunity with that Gilbert versus Barry Horowitz match. I mean, that's a WrestleMania headliner if you've ever seen it.
Of course.
But Dan comes up with the facts. There have been 2 matches that involve Barry Horowitz and Dwayne Gill. Cam says that that's going to be his first podcast appearance. I'm assuming
Reviewing them.
reviewing them matches. That'll be amazing. I mean, if those matches get picked, we should have Cam in to review them with us.
I'll have the week off.
No. If I'm watching Gilbert, you're watching Gilbert. Dan Griffith says they need to split the bloody titles. Then Cody can have his shit reign on Raw, kill that like Jarrett killed Nitro, and we can see the bloodline play out on SmackDown. That's a really good idea. Dan says he'll hold Cam to being on a podcast, and then says the world ends in nuclear war. All that is left is cockroaches, nuclear mutants, and Sar wondering how to start the chain wrestling. If you've ever watched Mitchell and Webb, that Mitchell and Webb look, they do a show, like a game show that's set after an event, an apocalypse, and that would be Sar hosting that show with literally nobody watching whatsoever.
Just on the top of a hill, shouting as loud as I can.
Yeah, exactly. Dan giving away a bit. Scottish Dan giving away a bit of evidence there. I'd be wiping that clean before you put it up on the chat, Danny. Chris Belly said, "I found Goldberg versus Barry Horowitz from Thunder." Nah, Goldberg is a pale imitation of Gilbert. It's just a mockery. It's a parody, and Scottish Danny agrees. Cam on chain wrestling, so perhaps that could be a thing. And then finally, on the top of the hill, shouting and rolling cheese.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. But if I'm the only one left, I'd need two hills very close together so it would roll down, go back up and come back.
But momentum would stop it, so it would just not be in reach for you the second time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okie doke then. Okie doke. All this Hall of Fame talk means, I suppose, we better get on with our next segment, the first segment of the week. And that's the opposite of the Hall of Fame. Let's talk about some shite, Magsy. Let's chuck it in the Hall of Lame.
The Hall of
Bang on cue. Bang on cue.
I mean, I was so eager for the Hall of Lame this week that I jumped the gun a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's right. 12, nearly 13 minutes into the show. I've just got the Facebook reminder telling me to be ready to start a show in 5 minutes. Thank you, Facebook.
I also got the reminder saying you are going to be kicked out of your account in 4 days. So
yeah, I need to, yeah. Just got to sync the Facebook back to it, I guess. Yes. Okie doke, Maxie, what do you got for us?
Okay, so there's quite a few wrestlers in the world of pro wrestling that have had their own gimmick matches or gimmick matches that are kind of linked to them. So you think of The Undertaker, he's linked to casket matches, arguably Hell in a Cell, Buried Alive, that kind of thing. You've got the likes of Ken Shamrock linked to the Lion's Den match. Raven linked to Raven's Rules matches. So you think of WCW mid-2000s and they're trying to jump on that MMA craze only 4 years behind the WWF. And they come up with an Asylum match. Now, in 2000 WCW, there was one wrestler that stood head and shoulders above everyone else who should have been linked to this match.
Jeff Jarrett.
The star that is Tank Abbott.
Okay.
So we get to May the 22nd. Nitro was in Grand Rapids, Michigan. That's the home of Scott Steiner. And he's getting a standing ovation. And he tells the crowd that it's good to be home and there's nothing finer than a 69er with Scott Steiner, which, I mean, you can't argue there. But he starts reminiscing about a conversation he had with his friends, and they said he'd probably end up in jail. But he said he's not worried about going in the cells because wherever he goes, he brings the cells with him. and he points to something hanging above the ring. And Tony Schiavone on commentary acts all surprised because there's a cage hanging above the ring. I mean, the cage has been in camera shot multiple times before this, but Tony Schiavone, he's hams it up quite a lot. So Scott decides he's going to basically introduce his new match, the Asylum match, and he said that there's rules to this match. One pretty major rule, that it's easy to get in the cage, but there's only one way to get out of the cage, and that's by saying "I quit." So essentially, this is a submission match inside of a cage.
Okay.
But this is not just your typical cage. Now, you think of Hell in a Cell, you think of Elimination Chamber, War Games, all these matches that involve cages.
Straight jacket cage match.
I mean, that's the first that comes to my mind.
Of course.
Even the Punjabi prison match, they all have one striking similarity, that cage surrounds the ring. So the wrestler still has the ring and perhaps part of the ringside to work with to make this a wrestling match. But that's not how Scott Steiner and Vince Russo want it to go. So the cage that lowers down, it actually fits inside the ring without even touching any of the ropes. So you think of a square, 16 by 16 square, this circle, essentially bird cage, comes down and fits perfectly inside the ring with plenty of wiggle room. So imagine how cramped that is for 6 foot odd.
Sorry.
Oh, it's very circular. It's incredibly circular. So this cage starts coming down, and Scott says he only wants 2 people to face him in Asylum matches, and that's his brother Rick and the aforementioned Tank Abbott. So first match, only Rick appears. Tank doesn't show up. The match is on, and the 2 brothers are starting to battle as this cage is lowered down. And as the match kind of progresses, it's quite clear there's several problems with having a cage inside the ring. There's the workspace. There's no room for actual wrestling. The cage isn't secured to anything, so whenever a wrestler is thrown into the cage, it moves.
Oh my god!
And then the mesh that goes around. I mean, like I said, this is a circle, so it's not secured tightly over corner posts. The mesh has a lot of give in it. So Scott Steiner, for instance, is thrown into the cage, and his fully outstretched arms are pushing right against the mesh before the rest of his body even comes into contact with it. It's ridiculous. Scott attempts a couple of his patented suplexes, but with having no space, they look incredibly botched. Luckily, this match doesn't last too long, and it's about 3 minutes. 3.5 minutes or so in that Scott locks in the Steiner recliner, and it's just as he's about to win, we hear Goldberg's music, and out comes the guy, but it ain't Goldberg, it's Tankberg. He's got a raw on his locker room door and everything, Tankberg, and Tank has brought some bolt cutters with him. Now, he clearly didn't hear the rule that Scott said that this match only has one way of ending, and that's I quit. So he brings the bolt cutters to the cage, snips 2 little wires on the mesh, gives it up as a bad job, throws the bolt cutters away, smacks the referee Mickey J square in the face, and I don't know if it was a working punch. It looked pretty shooty. Grabs the control box for the cage, lifts it up, and then Rick and Tank proceed to kick the living shit out of Scott. So the first ever Asylum match where the only way out is to submit ends in a no contest when neither opponent submits. Now, it didn't go well. Let's be fair, but we'll give it a second try, and that happens the week after.
Oh God! So they don't leave any time.
They don't want you to be able to review or digest it. They're just firing episode 2 straight at you. And just as this match is about to start, Scott announces that there will be a third Asylum match, but that will be a Great American Bash in a couple of weeks, when he'll be taking on Tank Abbott. But in this match, Asylum Match 2, Steiner Boogaloo, he's taking on franchise Shane Douglas. Now, Shane obviously watched the first one and thought, fuck that for a game of soldiers. It's ridiculous. So Vince Russo had to kind of sugar the deal. And he says that this match is for Scott's US title. So Shane Douglas is happy with that, goes down to the cage. And in probably one of the most ridiculous things I've seen in wrestling in a long time, Shane is Irish whipped into the cage. Now, normally you would think a wrestler would like slam into the cage and act like it's hurt, like it on my back or that kind of thing. Shane Douglas bounces off the cage like he's been Irish whipped into the ropes, as if there was some rebound on that cage. It's absolutely just laughable. But to be fair, we are giving a little bit of mercy because this match is only about 2.5 minutes long. When Scott manages to get the Steiner recliner and we see Shane Douglas quit. So we finally got a match that ends how it's supposed to end. So Great American Bash rolls around a couple of weeks later, and Tank and Scott are brawling before the match even starts. The cage starts lowering, and then there's an announcement read out, and it's that Eric Bischoff has said that since this match, and I can't read this with a straight face, but since this match is Scott Steiner's specialty, he must face Rick and Tank at the same time. So Rick makes his way to the ring and the cage surrounds the 3 guys. Now, bear in mind, this cage was too small for 2 guys to wrestle. So with Rick, Scott, and Tank in the cage at the same time, this is technical perfection. The moves that you see are phenomenal. You see Scott beat down, picked up, thrown into the cage, kicked whilst on the floor, picked up, thrown into the cage, kicked whilst on the floor, rinse and repeat for 3 whole minutes. Excruciating minutes. I mean, it was horrible to watch. And then Tank decides, this is it, I'm gonna end this, and he pulls a chain out of his pocket and wraps it around his fist. Now, Rick, finally coming to his senses, thinks that this is too far, and he pleads with Tank to leave it, to calm down. So Tank twats Rick in the face with a chain wrapped around his fist. But this gives Scott the opportunity for a comeback, and he lamps Tank square in the bollocks. Tank goes down, gets put in the Steiner recliner, and Scott Steiner wins this match. 3.5 minutes, again, of absolute utter wank. Funnily enough, this was the end of the Asylum cage match for WCW, and it was never mentioned again until today, when it got its rightful place in the Chain Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Fucking hell. Do you know what? I must have seen one of those. I imagine the pay-per-view one is the most likely for me to have seen, but I don't remember it at all.
Well, just wait for that delicacy on Nitro Nights, because it's coming. Oh, it's coming.
Oh, we've got some wonderful times ahead of us. Oh man, that sounds. I'm gonna watch them later. That's what I'm gonna put on later on.
I mean, if you've got 8 minutes spare, you'll probably be able to cram all 3 in.
Yeah.
The most entertaining part of these matches was the fact that this was the period of Scott Steiner where his filter was broken. And he just said whatever he liked on the microphone. So those promos pre-match are just absolute gold. I think one of the matches, it's the famous one where he says that if the hooches can split their hips and put their ass back, ass out, Scott Steiner can make them pass out or something like that.
My God.
Yeah, they're the best part of the matches. And then
I love Scott Steiner.
Unfortunately, the bell has to ring.
Yeah. Oh, dear me. Very worthy entrant into the Hall of Fame, my friend. I'm going back a bit further. I'm heading back to the mid-90s. Well, literally, 1995, actually. July of 1995. July 16th, to be specific. And this individual I'm putting in there's not masses that you can go back and watch. He had one televised match, but was doing house shows and so on around this as well, and has worked as a very similar gimmick to what I'm entering into the Hall of Fame this week in other smaller companies and promotions. I would like to take a little moment to discuss the one match career of Fantasio in the WWF. Now, this guy, Harry Del Rios, was his real name. So some people may recognize him from very, very early days in TNA when he wrestled under the name Del Rios, which was his real surname. He has this gimmick here for the WWF of being a magician. And of course, this is mid-90s WWF, so everyone's a toilet plumber, everyone's a bloody, a goon in an ice hockey team, or a bin man, or a dentist, or whatever nonsense. This guy is a magician, but they dress him up like a mime. So he's not, so he's a mime who can also do magic. He's got this weird black and white mask on, which is part of his gimmick, and he gives the mask to a kid as he's coming down, similar to Bret Hart with the sunglasses. Which is a nice little merchandise opportunity. But he takes the mask off, and he's got exactly the same mask on, painted on his face underneath. So it's just nonsense. He's wearing one of the weirdest singlets I've ever seen, with bits cut out of the legs and the arms and the chest and so on. But then we get to the actual wrestling side of things. This guy, he's just a body slam factory, because that's all he does on this television match. It's just body slam, body slam, body slam. And that's pretty much his whole, in-ring, I suppose, repertoire. Apart from the magic. Because we mentioned this guy's a magician. There's a moment in the match where he sends his opponent, who was just an enhancement talent on an episode of Superstars, over to the ropes. And as this guy turns back around from the Irish whip and runs towards Phantasmo, he does this kind of really flamboyant fling of his arm. Well, not far off, Magsy, not far off. Did this really flamboyant fling of his arm and shoots streamers all over the place. But they're so small and thin, and it's ridiculous. It looks like a crap version of Spider-Man shooting a web. Okay, it's not going to stop or harm anybody, but his opponent is mortified by this and doesn't know how to react. He literally stops on the spot, like, "Oh my god, what am I going to do?" The match carries on, and he hits a atomic drop on his opponent before going up to him and magically removing his underwear.
Because of course.
He pulls out his boxer shorts, which mortifies his opponent, of course, even though he's still wearing a full Kurt Angle-esque wrestling singlet. It doesn't matter. His boxer shorts have been removed, and that enables Phantasmo to win this match with a roll-up, because he's shocked and stunned about the flying bits of tissue paper and boxer shorts removal. To round it off, he goes up to Earl Hebner and removes his boxer shorts too. Now, obviously, being a referee, black and white stripes. But that's not all that happened here. That's not all. The main reason this guy didn't work for the WWF again was what happened before he went out to the ring. According to a few different people who were there that day, and mainly Bruce Pritchard, because he's a fantastic storyteller, this guy decided, as one of his magic tricks he was going to do, he had a cane that would turn into a candle and back and forth and so on. you know, on the way to the ring. And like, as you said, Magsy, the flowers appearing out of nowhere and all the, you know, cheesy magician stuff. This guy had a little canister set to effectively ignite. He didn't get this cleared with anyone in WWE, WWF. He just decided this is going to be a cool spot. It's going to explode, be a big flash of fireball, whatever. Whilst in the gorilla position on an episode of Superstars, you know, and we've seen these shots of the smaller TV shows, especially in the mid-90s, very contained, very small, cramped area, tables and, you know, the curtains all around where the wrestlers walk through and so on. Very small, cramped area. The dipshit manages to drop this canister, which goes bang, sets fire to the curtains, and effectively gorilla position with Bruce Pritchard sat there and Kevin Dunn screaming at him, "Send him out now! His music's playing. Send him out now!" Apparently, Bruce Pritchard was screaming back, "I'm on fucking fire. What do you want me to do?" The table was on fire, and they, you know, people obviously running with extinguishers, get it all sorted out. He goes out and works this silly match, throwing bits of tissue paper around, and effectively that's the end of his career. Well, the end of his WWF career. He went on and worked for TNA. I think he might have had 1 or 2 matches in ECW. He wasn't involved in the USWA for a while as well, but that was pre-WWF. But yeah, that was the end of that gimmick. You can find it online on YouTube, or at least clips of it, just to see. You don't see the fire. That's not available. I can't find that anywhere. Oh. But it's the July 16th, 1995 edition of WWF Superstars. Yeah, not a good look. Setting fire to effectively your boss's desk on your first day, and then just being pretty shit. Cost him his job. So my entrance into the Hall of Lame this week is the one-match wonder that was Fantasio.
Wow. So both our entrants this week had a total ring time of about 12 minutes.
Yes. Yes, that is true.
Shocking.
But now,
and they made such an impact on us that they're in the Hall of Lame.
Oh, one more thing, actually, whilst I mention it. He was interviewed, apparently, Del Rio, for Harry Del Rio, for the official WWE magazine in 2006 about this gimmick. And the one line I got from this that I thought was really worth noting, my gimmick, I wanted to make it a combination of the Ultimate Warrior and the Legion of Doom. What?
I mean, I don't know if he quite pulled it off.
No. I mean, Hawk and Animal quite regularly would pull rabbits out of a hat, and, you know, it's a similar sort of ilk, isn't it? The Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, Warrior was known for his card tricks.
Yeah, exactly. But there we go. Those are your entrants into this week's Chain Wrestling Hall of Lame. We have the what is the actual title of the match, Magazine?
It's the Asylum match.
Yes, the Asylum match in WCW, and the Fireball wonder that is Fantasio. So there we go. What have we got in the chat, my friend?
Jesus, let's go all the way back because this has got a lot of love. Kings, Pigs, Banners just found Barry and Dwayne versus the New Foundation on YouTube. I mean, that might be a shout for our Gilbert match. I might have just had one that's usurped my picks.
Picks, plural. Oh,
plural. Yes. It's a cinematic event WWE is crying out for. And look at everyone clamoring for the link. Come on, guys. It's illegal streaming.
Gilbert's over for the CWF, isn't he?
He is. And I don't even think it's ironic now. I think it's genuine love. Genuine love for Gilbert. Chris Bailey says it's a good match. It really is. And he's posted the link. I don't think the link's actually working in the chat. So if you've got it, that's absolutely amazing. But I don't know if they do. Dan Griffith says the Asylum matches were ridiculous, but Tank made it work. I mean, I don't get why they weren't formed around Tank. I mean, he was involved in 2 of them. I get that, but he has a 0% win rate in them. So it would have made way more sense for them to be like formed around Tank. But Vince Russo got a Vince Russo answer.
Bro.
Exactly. Dwayne Gill looks more like Hogan than Goldberg in that match. Jesus. Don't you dare sully his name with the orange one. Oh. Tank Dan says Tank didn't bring that chain to hit Scott Scarder with. It was meant to be a mid-match snack. Hashtag Tank Facts. I know we
crunchy.
mentioning Tank. It's almost like blasphemous when we've got the Lord of Tank Facts in the chat with unbooking the tanketry.
Indeed.
King's Pigs Banner says, check it out and tell me he doesn't look like a deflated Hogan. I mean, Hogan now looks like a deflated Hogan, doesn't he?
Deflated, not just like he's lost muscle mass, but deflated in life. Just
like,
had enough.
Like,
just,
what have I ever achieved?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm an orange racist. Jesus. Cam unfortunately can't watch it tonight because he's got to set off on the road at R5 to go to Cheadle. Oof. Oh, that's grim. That's grim. But he'll have plenty of time to listen to podcasts. So I'm sure he's got the all the content on the SJP World Media to go through. Scottish Daddy says he would have made a great WWF action figure, a very small one. You could have used the Goldberg ones that kind of like the raggy dolls of WWE figures, where they're the ones you threw away. They'd make a really good.
I thought you meant Fantasia.
I mean, for that one person who watched the match and bought the figure, that would be.
You remember the old Hasbro figures? They'd have like a spring-loaded arm, wouldn't they? Or both arms would go in a gorilla press position or whatever. You could have a little button that just shoots a flame in your face.
Or just drops a canister and sets you on fire.
Yeah, exactly. That'd work.
Yeah. Chris Bella says Harry Del Rios was a Memphis legend. So there you go. And then he shit the bed in his short time in the WWF.
Yep.
Magician. I mean, it's bad when you have to make a word up for the character. Chris Bella says he saw him on weekly TV in 2003 looking like a Wish version of Big Papa Pump.
That's right. The very first TNA pay-per-view he was on as well. The weekly TV they did that was pay-per-view only. He basically ripped off Scott Steiner's gimmick.
Wow. I bet Scott was not happy about that. Coming up on One Man's Meat, the life and career of Harry Del Rios. Very short episode. That's like a bonus episode.
Like I said, he was in USWA in well, that was Texas and Memphis kind of combining at one point, wasn't it, under Jerry Jarrett? And he wrestled for the USWA for several years before going to the WWF.
Yeah. Scottish Ellie says he remembers thinking it was actually Scott Steiner on the first NWA TNA pay-per-view. Back to Fantasio, and it looked like he was jizzing silly string. And this one absolutely tickled me. Earl signed those boxes and sold them after the show.
Yeah.
You know he did. Absolutely he did. And Del Rios also wrestled as half of Shock and Awe in Memphis with Awe being British Storm Ian Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
And he loved Ian Harrison because he was so crap. And Shock and Awe, what an amazing tag team name. That is actually a really good tag team name. Dan says Ian Harrison was a massive juiced up bodybuilder from Leeds. Then he fell through someone's. I mean, this is out of there. He fell through someone's ceiling in the second week of his apprenticeship, and he thought that was bad. That is pretty bad, to be quite fair. And Cam says it's more Dungeon of Doom and Booty Man. Yeah, it's just
then Legion of Doom and Warrior. Yeah,
yeah. Unfortunately,
yeah, you're not far off there. Off there. There we go. Thank you so much, everybody, joining us in the chats there. I want to give a quick shout out to our good buddy Steve-O as well, Magsy, before we get on to anything else. He's doing this 2011 kind of watch back.
Yeah.
Sort of going through like the summer of punk and all the stuff that goes on in that year. And he's had numerous people on that show as well. Scottish Danny has been a guest several times. Tyler Peters has been on there. Mr. Mags has been on there. He put a tweet out earlier on saying this evening, obviously don't go listen to it now because you're with us, but this evening a show that I recorded with him is being released as well. So if you like listening to Mags, me, Scottish Danny, anyone else, Tyler Peters has been involved in one from the SJP World Media as well. Go and check out Total Steve-O's Twitter account. Everything gets retweeted on there. It's at Total Steve-O Podcast. It's fantastic listening to him talk each week, looking at the weekly TV and what he likes and what he dislikes, and what he gets frustrated with, and so on. And he does a great job. So yeah, go and check that out.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun being on the show with him. Did you get the Part Bomb episode?
Oh yes, I did.
Yeah, because I got the week after. So
When Punk wasn't even there.
Yeah, well, it was like the letdown, because you'd think the Part Bomb would have come just before a pay-per-view, because it's obviously to lead in, but no, they let it hang there like a bad smell for quite a while. But yeah, so yeah, I think mine will be probably the next episode dropping then, hopefully. So if you don't listen to this one, definitely go and listen to next week's. But yeah, Steve O's podcast, such a good time. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it is. It's brilliant. Steve-O's top fella. And also, very quickly, a little bit of advertising and plugging, I guess. At the end of the week, yeah, that's right, the 31st, isn't it? Friday? Yes.
Yep.
To coincide with WrestleMania and hopefully everybody's paydays, the SJP World Media merchandise store will be having what they refer to as a flash sale, when it can be up to 35% off hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, and all that great stuff. So the company that our merch store is with pick and choose the dates of most of the sales they put on, and so on. And it sort of tends to drop middle of the month, which sometimes isn't handy for people with regards to when their pay comes in and all that sort of stuff. But this one, I've arranged with them to be at the end of the month, so it coincides with people's paydays and WrestleMania weekend. So in the description of this episode and all over our social medias, this coming weekend there will be the link to the SJP World Media merchandise store. Loads of chain wrestling goodies, Nitro Nights, Doctor Who pod, all sorts of stuff there. Grab yourself some goodies whilst it is reduced. It's well worth it.
Absolutely, totally agree.
There we go. Maxie, should we get on to our non-wrestling topic?
I mean, we may as well. That's what we're here for.
NWT time. Oh, no wrestling talk here. It's the non-wrestling topic.
Lovely.
Nice. Lovely.
Nice. Ooh, lovely.
Lovely.
So then, this week's non-wrestling topic was suggested by your good self, Mr. Mags, wasn't it?
It was. You nearly kind of doubled up, but me being the podcasting professional, kept a little back maybe for next week.
Indeed. I wanted to, hot shot the territory and wreck it all, but no, we'll hold it back. This week we are looking at those bargain buys that are too good to be true, and they are too good to be true. They end up being shit, whether it's from a pound shop, a jumble sale, anywhere at all. You look at it and think, oh, it's only £3. That's a bargain. Look at that. That's worth way more than that. And then it breaks in 20 minutes, or it's not fit for purpose. And we had quite a few responses, varying places and varying products, Magsy, didn't we?
We did. We absolutely did. Again, the CWF knocks it out of the parks with the replies.
Indeed. We will begin, and I'll run through them in the order they came into us. We will begin with Graham at MGB Graham on Twitter. He says, wow, yeah, can't think of anything. So that's brilliant. But he continues, if it was bad, my thought would be it was only £1, so no biggie. Okay, well, thanks for joining.
Yeah, but that's how pound shops get you, because you think that, and that's just you. But when thousands of people think that over and over again, they're making an absolute killing off selling your tat. Yeah,
and it is those things as well. When you go in places like that, you'll see one or two and just think, oh, that's only £1. That's only £1. Oh, that's only £1. You walk out of there £15 later.
Yeah,
ridiculous. Or the one that gets us is like there used to be that place called the What Shop. And you get B&M as well now. I think it is B&M and Home Bargain. These sort of places, and you think that's good value. Oh, that's good value. Oh, I'll get some of that for the kids. And before you know it, you're £35 later.
Yeah. What annoys me now, because I've got a wife who loves a pound shop like Root, but they have a lot of things now. What are a pound?
Yeah.
And you think it's the names in the clue's in the name. It's meant to be Poundland, not
Mhm.
£3 land or
Yeah.
£4.99 land. Yeah, that annoys me.
Have you seen the I think it's Trigger Happy TV, the Dom Jolly sketch where he goes into a pound shop and they're filming it on the sly, aren't they? 'Cause it's like a reality based thing, and he's picking items up and going up to the staff going, "Excuse me, how much is this?" And, "Oh, that's a pound, sir." "Okay, no worries." Puts it
Yeah,
back.
I've seen it.
30 seconds later, picks something else up. And how much is this? But he does it for like an hour. It's fantastic. And you see these people getting really, really angry with him. It's so good. King's Pigs Bladders at Pigs Bladders on Twitter. He says, "Not actually mine. Another adult who lives in my house who shall remain nameless for my safety."
AKA WAF, probably.
Yeah, blatantly. Mrs. Pigs Bladders. Kitchen gadgets. We had an air fryer before they became popular, but it never really worked. Brilliant.
I mean, that's what you get with the first generation of gadgets. You take the hit so they can improve it for the next time.
Yeah, there we go. Various chopping and slicing gadgets that worked great, but take so long to set up. You could easily have done it with a knife in half the time. That is true. You get these. You just get these adverts that you like. You sat watching telly late at night and you doze off and you wake up and all of a sudden the shopping channels took over on that station.
Yeah.
And there'd be some cheesy dude trying to sell you this plastic thing that you got to like spend 45 minutes to assemble, to press a button and it dices your carrot for you.
Yeah. I mean, there was one that I got. It was called the slap chop, and it was basically a blade that was like a wave, and you put your food underneath it and then you slap it and it chops it. And on the advert, they make it look so easy, and it didn't work. The blade bends within seconds, and you just end up with wavy cut onions. It's ridiculous.
Brilliant. Pigs Bladders continues. An ice cream maker sort of works, but sort of works. That's exactly what you want from any product. It sort of works.
Again, we've got one. We've got an ice cream maker, and you have to put half of it in the freezer for it to get cold. So, I mean, what's the point? You're doing the job of the ice cream maker. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
It makes such a small amount. It doesn't really make enough for everyone. So it doesn't even make enough grub.
And it doesn't freeze it to like the consistency of ice cream. It's like melted ice cream.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Dan Griffin at Dan Griffin 21 on Twitter. He says, "My mind immediately went to football for some reason. And when Liverpool signed Joe Cole on a free, thought it was a great deal. He got sent off on his debut and was generally a bit shit."
Yeah. I mean, sometimes even the freebies are a good bargain.
I remember Joe Cole signing for Liverpool for nothing and being a bit gutted that United didn't get him, because I thought he was fantastic.
And then he performed. Yeah, because did he score that like overhead kick from like the halfway line? And it was that for England? It was like, I think he was doing like kick ups, and he basically booted it over his head and scored. And then Sam for Liverpool was crap.
Same as Harry Kewell, there's a list. Let's not go into that. Dan Griffin continues. "I usually get stung with Amazon bargains. Phone cases, a wireless mouse, earphones, all at decent for a good price, and always got crap that either broke within days or never worked in the first place. And I'll probably never learn that you get what you pay for."
Earphones was a big bugbear of mine as well. Yeah, never worked.
Yeah.
Or one worked and one was crackly.
Yeah, I know what you mean. His podcasting partner, Rob at UTT Rob on Twitter. He says, "I bought a cheap laptop. Instantly regretted it. It was so fragile, I didn't dare move it."
These are ringing true to me. I feel like I'm all of these people because I've got a cheap laptop right down here. And if I turned it on now, by the time we finish recording, it would have booted.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Bloody hell. Oh dear. It makes me laugh as well that you can't move the laptop, because then it just basically becomes your home PC, doesn't it? Surely.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, the battery life, you start with 100%, and by the time it's got into actual Windows, it's on like 60%.
Brilliant. Steve-O at Total Steve-O on Twitter. He says, only immediate thing that springs to mind was a mobile phone stand. Cost a whole £1. If anything, should have been called a mobile flattener, as it kept falling over and flattened the phone. What I will add, that's been amazing, yes, doing a mags and breaking the rules, Steve-O says here, was on Saturday, I bought an unofficial PS4 controller, £21, absolute brilliant purchase. Okay, fair enough.
There we go. I didn't know they did unofficial ones with them being Bluetooth and the like, but yeah.
Sharon has bought various phone stands and so on, like little plastic. There's some that look like wrestling chairs that fold open, and you can pop your little tiny wrestling chairs, and you can put your phone on it, so you can watch a video and stuff. And they are fantastic, mate. Really, really cool bits of kit. But then you look at others in the shop or other bits and bobs that you buy, and you think, okay, that don't look strong enough, or that looks like it's just going to collapse, you know?
I went through a fad of having those kind of ring holders that you put on the back. So you have a case, and then you you stick a ring on the back, and it folds flat. But then when you want to stand it up, you unfold the ring, and it stands up. And it worked for a month or so. But then the hinge got pretty loose.
Yeah,
and it wouldn't stay up. So yeah, the phone ended up falling quite a lot. So yeah, that was crap.
Yeah. See, Sharon and the kids have those like pop sockets, they call them, don't they? The little round things that click back and forth. But I can't have anything on the back of my phone because it goes in my pocket all the time when I'm at work. It's annoying. Magsy coughing his guts. That's standard Monday practice now, isn't it, Max?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. my case now, I just go for a standard thin clear because it just annoys me having extra stuff on it.
Yeah, exactly. The Villain King, our good friend at officialab_POS on Twitter. They say, I bought what looked like a good pair of sneakers for $8 on sale at a Target. Fit well, felt good on the treadmill, day 1. By day 3, they were visibly falling apart, despite wearing them once. Day 6, they have mildew, and I had to bin them. Moral of the story, invest in your feet. Oh my goodness.
Mildew within 6 days.
Yeah, that's not a good look, is it? Yeah.
Jesus wept.
Yeah.
I've had the total opposite of experience with that. I used to be quite picky about my trainers. I would spend ridiculous amounts of money on them, and they would always last a couple of months at best before I'd be picking up a new pair. And then I got a pair for about 20 quid, and they were the most comfortable trainers that I've ever worn. And I was physically upset when I had to throw them away. They were amazing trainers as well. Yeah, I miss those trainers.
See, I had that with that white pair of trainers that I bought that I thought were great. And then I bought another pair exactly the same when they got worn out. And that's when the wife and kids pointed out that apparently they look like shit.
After you've replaced them with the same trainers.
Yeah. But they're fantastic. I mean, I've got this horrible bump on my foot, Magsy. Like the knuckle of my big toe. It's like a fucking half a golf ball under my skin. And they won't do nothing about it. But if I put normal trainers on, it hurts. So these ones I've got there just like mesh all over. Fantastic, mate. Really nice. But yeah, apparently they look horrible.
The fad of having trainers made out of like wool or fabric, I love it. They're so comfy. They're absolutely so comfy. It's amazing. You don't even have to do the laces up. You just slide your feet in. Yeah, they're great.
Kind of like slippers.
Yeah, but outside slippers.
Outside slippers. There you go. Chris Bellis at Real Chris Bellis on Twitter. He says, my boy is massively into Transformers, and we love watching the G1 stuff together. Coming soon to the Bumblebee podcast. Awesome. He loves Soundwave, so we ordered him one off US Amazon for $3. He now turns into a van and broke within a week. Absolute bobbins.
Soundwave turned into a tape player, did he?
I don't know. That's over my head, mate, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think he did. Soundwave was the one who had little tapes who come out as like a hawk and a panther.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was never a van, so I don't know where that's come from. But yeah, I love the G1, the Transformers. I once got Carlos, my son, the Japanese box set of it. I think it was about 150 quid to get it shipped over, but it come with like loads of artwork and key rings in like
Nice.
a metal tin. And Carlos is the kind of person who he doesn't really look after a lot of stuff. He likes to take things apart and see how they work, stuff like that. But I got him that box set when he was about 7, and he's still got it now, and it's pristine. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Great stuff. And finally, from Twitter this week, unless I've missed anybody out, we have Cam, who I think has left us because he's got such an early start in the morning, but he'll hear this on the audio version later in the week, no doubt. At CamGriff92 on Twitter, he says, and I can go along with this. This rings true for me. By far, the biggest waste of money ever is each and every gym membership I've ever had.
Yeah, and what's worse is when they tie you into a contract, and then you decide to cancel, and they're like, "Nope, you're in a watertight contract. You've got to pay this for the next 12 months." So yeah. I agree with that. Gym memberships are the worst. You have missed one out. Friend of the show, Jimmy Evans.
Jimmy, I apologize.
He told us about a shop in the States called Big Lots, which apparently is kind of like a pound store. And it was in West Virginia where he was born. Again, it's you get what you pay for, don't you? If you're paying £1, it's probably going to break.
Well, I suppose we'll find more out about that next week with our non-wrestling topic.
Look,
we are so professional that we've already got next week's
recent crackers that I'll bring up next week.
Yeah,
some cracking bargains.
There we go. Thank you to everybody who messaged the show on Twitter, etc., and everyone in the chat for their comments as well. Magsy, have you got any that's jump out at you now, or have we covered them?
I mean, they've all been mentioned. Everything that I've got and I've spent money on, and it's been ridiculous. It's all been mentioned. I have once bought a massive TV and then put it on the wall, and it fell and broke straight away. But that wasn't so much that it was a bargain that wasn't worth it. It's just I'm an idiot, and yeah, that was an expensive day. But yeah, I've had a lot of similar experiences as some of the CWF.
I've got 2 that haven't been mentioned that stand out, to be honest, and they are literally I bought them because they were so cheap.
There's the problem. There's your problem straight away.
This is too good to be true, but I'm going to take a punt on it. The first one was, like these thermos, like coffee mugs that people get.
Yeah.
You get like a cup and a half in there. And I used, when it was cold and in the winter and whatnot, I used to make myself a cup of tea to take to work with me, and it would stay hot for the first bit of time at work and so on. I started realizing that my desk at work, and the paperwork and so on was wet. And in my head, I'm thinking, I work in a warehouse, and I'm thinking, is that the condensation? Is it dripping from the roof? And I'm looking up. It took me a few days to figure out that it was every time I took a swig from this cup of tea, and this like £2 from Tesco's cheap as shit thermos thing, it was coming out the side, pissing down the actual cup and dripping all over the desk.
Brilliant.
So yeah, that didn't last very well. And the last one that really sort of stands out, there was a guy who used to work with me, lovely fella, an older chap. He used to get quite a bad back and bad neck and so on, and used to have like these heat things he'd put on his neck to sort of, because where we worked in the previous place was, even in the summer, it got fucking cold in there. It was not a nice place. And I saw these heat pads in literally in the pound shop or pound stretcher or whatever it may well be, one of those places. And they're, that's sort of, phone size, I guess. And they got the liquid in them, but when you crack them, they get warm.
Mm-hmm.
And they stay warm for a while, and then eventually the temperature drops off and so on. And I thought that'll do him sound for at work. We're coming up to a busy week. It's ice cold. I'll buy him as a present, take him in. And there's one particular day I could see him at his bench struggling a bit with his neck and his back and all that. So I went over, oh, look, I got you these, mate. And he was really grateful. You know, it was lovely. So he cracked it, put it on the back of his neck, tied it into his top so it stayed there and all that, carried on working. And after a little while, I started to smell something. And, it smelled quite plasticky, quite chemically in a way. And I kept looking over at my friend, and he was struggling a little bit by this point. And it had like the adhesive around the outside as well, so you can stick it to your back or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of stick-on pouch kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Apparently, because it's effectively a chemical reaction, isn't it? When you break the thing and it starts getting hotter. These cheapo versions of that, they didn't ever stop. So he kind of got this pad stuck to the back of his neck that just kept getting hotter and hotter to the point where I'm working maybe 4 or 5 yards away from him and I can smell it. And it was stuck on, mate. It was a fight getting this thing off the back of his neck. It had a big red square and all sorts. Yeah. So we didn't use any more of those.
I mean, you're a bad mate, aren't you?
My intentions were right.
Well, horrible things have been done that had the best of intentions, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Okay. What have we got in the chat, my friend? Anyone else shouting anything out before we move on to a little bit of wrestling talk?
Yes, let's. We've got Cam, who's obviously signing out, but he's going to catch up on the podcast release and make sure you vote for next week's poll. Cam, you may be pleasantly surprised with the choices. Dan Griffin said he's got his Doctor Who pod Pat Gorman Appreciation Society t-shirt.
Brilliant. That's one of my favorite shirts. I love that so much. It is so cool.
That's what that shirt was, Dan. You wore it on the Disgusting Awful recording. And Dan then says, how did you go bankrupt? I went to B&M, Home Bargains and Poundland in the same day.
Yeah.
Dan says a cheap slap chop has been the downfall of many a man. Yeah, they're annoying because you think you've done something. You think, this is going to save me effort, and it makes it just 10 times worse. He says the Yorkshire stereotype in me cannot resist a bargain. Yeah, it's the same with me. Anyone up in the north. King's Pigs Banner says he wants a slap chop now. Dan Griffin, don't we all? It may be my new mission. Sharon trying to pimp a pop socket to me. Nope, I am not sticking anything on the back of my phone again. I have been burned too many times, Shah, unfortunately. Liv says your shoes are old man shoes.
Yeah, this is what I found out. Yeah.
And Kingsbury says, well, he is knocking on a bit. I mean, that's very, very
awesome.
True.
Cheers.
Dan Griffin says he's just been scrolling Facebook and Sinagar found a proper replica of the yellow leather WWF RC title. Oh, my good Lord. At a flea market, bought it for $25. That's a great bargain. That is amazing. Kingsbury Banner says he bought a fancy travel coffee mug thing because going on a trip, he thought it would be useful. Kept the coffee piping up, which was annoying, as every time you drank from it, it spilt down my chest, burning me. Brilliant. Now, the wife has got a fascination for those kind of coffee thermoses, but she doesn't like the £2 ones or the no-name ones. She will always get Starbucks branded ones or Costa branded ones because she thinks she's King Dick, basically. And these aren't cheap. I mean, you're looking at like 20 quid plus for one.
For a cup?
Yeah, oh yeah. And do you know how many times she'll use them? Once or twice.
Oh,
once or twice. I literally have a cupboard stacked with multiple different coffee thermoses, water bottles that she has bought and thought, yep, these are amazing, and used them that one time. Yeah. She's a fucker.
Somebody mentioned in there that Dan Griffin wasn't it, saying that somebody's found a replica of the yellow leather IC title belt.
That's a gorgeous belt.
Yeah, did you hear about the Ultimate Warrior with that? You must have heard the story.
I mean, I may not have done, so enlighten us.
The yellow leather backed Intercontinental Championship is synonymous with the Ultimate Warrior, isn't it? He wore it for a period, and he sold one online as the only available ring used IC title belt with a yellow back on it. Some collector bought it for a few grand. And then I think it was 6 weeks later, the Warrior sold another one as the only ring.
Wow, what a
used.
scammer.
And he did it like 5 or 6 times, apparently.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Earl Hebner got fired for selling knockoff T-shirts and Warrior headliner WrestleMania.
Well, to be fair, it wasn't. There you go. WrestleMania 6. That was that poster. I was trying to think when exactly it was he had that belt, but that's it. WrestleMania 6.
Because
Right,
Shawn Michaels had a white one, Warrior had the yellow. I think Goldust had a gold one, which Ahmed Johnson carried for a while and was like had the title took off him before he got the chance to get a black one.
Shawn had I think Shawn had like a light blue one as well at one point.
I know Warrior had a light blue kind of teal WWF one.
Yeah.
Those coloured titles were amazing.
This is many, many years after he's left the company. This is when he's like, his wrestling career is over. But yeah, what a dickhead.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, mainly for not selling one to me.
Well, there you go. I'd have one. Not for a couple of grand though. Sod that. $25. Yeah, sounds good.
It's probably the second best version of the IC title behind the red block logo Intercontinental one that I've got.
Well, the yellow background, do you think it's the second best?
Probably. Yeah.
No, it's got to be the black or the white, hasn't it? Sure.
No. I've got the black one, but it's the red WWF logo.
Yes,
the one that Macho Man and Macho Man ruined it when he cleaned it with Brasso. But yeah, the yellow one after that it's pretty cool.
Yeah, okay. So I like the white one. I like the sky. I just like the ones that
Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, like that's it.
He's just a sexy boy.
I got my t-shirt on as well. There we are. Look at that. That's prime mid-90s Shawn Michaels. That is. Look at that. He even got the dangly earring. Lovely stuff. Shall we move on, Magsy, and talk a little bit of wrestling?
Let's go for it.
Let's get ready to rumble!
I would also like to just give a massive shout out to my wife because she's fucking amazing. First of all, she has just bought me a cup of tea halfway through our show.
In a mug that doesn't spill.
It probably will because I'm drinking from it, but that's more to do with me than the mug itself. But also, she was a volunteer at a book signing this weekend.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you post-show how it went.
Yeah, worked herself into the ground for the benefit of these people. Did incredibly, ridiculous amounts of effort and work for them. Fair play to her. She says that she had a great time when the social aspect came into it. She's made a few good, I suppose, networking links and friends and so on. And more signings are coming up in the future. So yeah, my wife is really cracking on with all that, working on her upcoming books as well. So yeah, I just want to give a shout out to my missus as being pretty fucking amazing.
Congratulations, Shah. Well done.
And that's it. All it takes is a cup of tea to bribe me. Look.
Oh no, I've spilt it everywhere.
It's all down my beard and my front.
My notes are wet. What match are we covering?
Do you remember when I did that? I opened that bottle of cream soda and it just exploded and covered my notes.
I remember when you smashed your Hulk Hogan mug and you was mortified.
Yeah, that was really upsetting. Let's move on before I get sad again. The winner of this week's poll, unsurprisingly at all, was Mr. Mags because he is sneaky and naughty and is bribing the CWF. So,
I mean, is it bribery or is it giving the people what they want?
Well, see, I like to think that some of my suggestions are what the people want. They just don't know it yet.
I mean,
because there's some fantastic Barry Windham.
People definitely want Barry Windham all the time. The Barry Windham podcast.
I wish there was a match with Barry Windham from, say, I don't know, 88, 89, going into 90. That sort of prime Windham against prime Shawn Michaels. That would have been fantastic. That'd be like porn to me.
There is a match with Barry Windham in late 1996 where he's got camouflage face paint and a mustache. So
against Shawn Michaels.
No. I mean, they wouldn't put him against Shawn Michaels. Are you mental?
Why would you say that and tease me? I'll get my hopes up then. I'm going
I think it may have been against TL Hopper.
Well, that's not the same.
It's kind of the same.
It's
but
not.
different.
It's not. There's nowhere near the same. Oh my god. Anyway, sold out 97. This won the poll. It's Eddy Guerrero versus Sean Mortman, or Syxx, as he is referred to here, in a ladder match for the United States Championship. A WCW pay-per-view, but really it's an NWO pay-per-view.
Yes.
It's a really unique time in WCW and what they're trying to do with branching out and having the NWO as their own brand. And they were going to give the NWO the Monday Nitro show at one point, and Thunder was going to be a WCW program and all this sort of stuff. This pay-per-view has got a lot of differences to what we normally get, Magsy, hasn't it? To what we normally see.
I mean, it's wank. Let's call a spade a spade. This pay-per-view it's just one long NWO screw job.
Mm-hmm.
There's very little redeemable about this pay-per-view. I understand the idea. I mean, NWO was hot, capitalizing off that. If everything had gone right, this could have been the start of maybe something really game-changing in wrestling, giving the faction their own real brand. But it flopped. It flopped hard. I mean, this pay-per-view, despite being NWO-centric, which was the hottest angle in wrestling at that time, it sold less than half of the bars that the pay-per-view the month before sold. It was, to all intents and purposes, a flop. The production level was it was almost going back to early 80s level of wrestling. And I get they wanted to differentiate from the high production values of WCW at the time, but this was almost ghetto. You had like cameramen always in shot, people running around the ringside with boom marks, the ridiculous kind of like point of view camera, which it just looks so amateur. And then you've got Ted DiBiase and Eric Bischoff on commentary, and between them they had no sense of emotion, no sense of building up the matches, no kind of like conveying what's going on in the ring to the fans watching. It was just a massive backslapping affair for the NWO, and it just didn't work whatsoever.
See, I don't get me wrong. I agree with you. It's shit.
Oh,
it really is.
It's very shit, people.
But I think it could have worked if it was just toned back. And there's so much of the same problem over and over again on this pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And the big problem is, I suppose it's the whole thing about the NWO being hot in itself leans to the problem, because they've got the NWO being the hottest thing in wrestling, and then they go too far with it and it's overkill.
Yeah.
And I think everything that was good about this pay-per-view, or everything that was different, everything that was interesting, at least for the first, say, 20 minutes, they do over and over and over again. And by the time you get to the end of the pay-per-view, it's too much. It's been flogged to death. I mean, even the opening is all black and white, and we've got the NWO on the back of rubbish trucks and all this sort of stuff, driving through the streets. I think it's snowing at one stage, isn't it? And they're swinging around, shouting and high-fiving each other, and you've got the police sirens and there's motorbikes going and all that. That looked cool as fuck.
Yeah.
For about 90 seconds. And that's where it should have ended. But it ran for a good few minutes. And by the time they got to the arena, and it was like the end of this opening,
was killed. Yeah.
It was too much.
Yeah.
The actual layout for this pay-per-view, you've got the entrance way, I suppose the Titatron, as people call it in the WWF and so on. I like that it's up on a big set of stairs. I like that it's very stripped back and dark, and because that's what the NWO was. It was reality based, almost grimy around the edges, and a bit everything was a little bit shoddy, a little bit I mean, you look at even just when they started off and they had the big WCW sign in the back of MGM Studios, they covered that with bed sheets spray painted. Everything was always a little bit shoddy, but it was just cool. And I liked the layout of this place because it looked shoddy. It looked quite cool. You had Bischoff and DiBiase on commentary, who weren't very good. I totally agree with you, Magsy. But they didn't have a desk. They were just literally slumped in the corner, sat chatting. And that, I thought, for the first time you saw it, because it was different, looked cool. The light bulbs, they didn't have a big screen. They had a collection of bulbs that were just making out the letters NWO.
Yeah, like a light board. Yeah.
Yeah. That looked cool. But then when you get half hour into the show, you're thinking, okay, turn it off now. Because now it's starting to look shit.
Yeah.
And
it's the childish jokes that happen over and over again. The absolutely slating of the WCW wrestlers over and over again. The loser on the audio over and over again. It's just. It's overkill. You were absolutely right. They killed that, but they milked it. Now, if this would have been maybe more competitive and the NWO still ended up winning out, I could see a future for it. But this died on its feet within the first half an hour.
I mean, with regards to, I suppose, the title matches, then, shall we say, looking at the top end of the card, the Outsiders dropped the tag titles to the Steiners. Hogan and the Giant in the main event go to a non-finish, which is the best you can expect from Hogan in this era, I guess.
Yeah,
he's not won the match, got it, whatever. And the match we're looking at here as well, I mean, it's not really a spoiler, it's from 1997. The NWO guy loses the title as well. So, in a way, I'm not too sure what they're going for, whether it is the WCW guys overcoming all the odds. Because it's almost like they've walked into this little NWO arena, and you got the NWO logo on the mat and everything, and they've come away with 2 of the main 3 championships that the WCW guys could potentially have won. That's interesting as well to me, but at the same time, it is like you said, it's just all complete overkill all the way through the show.
I mean, you mentioned the tag titles, and watching that match was one of the most frustrated that I got with this pay-per-view, because Eric Bischoff pretty much telegraphs exactly what's going to happen on the next episode of Raw, when he says he's going to make sure those titles are delivered back. So it meant that the match was pointless. Yeah. Because you knew that the Outsiders were getting the titles back afterwards. And it was all to build to a storyline where Randy Anderson, the referee, gets fired. It just felt like this, instead of being an innovative, maybe groundbreaking pay-per-view, this was all a bunch of glad handing to each other because the NWO was hot. It could have been so much more. And it ended up being an absolute fart in church, apart from this match. Well, I mean, the tag match was pretty good to a point, but this match is probably the outlier for me.
Yeah, and this is by far the best match on the show, isn't it? Let's be honest. This is the standout contest from this pay-per-view. And, again, just to summarize, it is overkill. But I think there was a nucleus of a good idea there. And there was lots of little good ideas that were involved. It just got too big, too much. And I suppose you can say that about the whole NWO thing in general, to be fair. But there we go. Anyone who's not seen this pay-per-view or not seen a match from it or anything like that, I do, even though we just panned it, I do recommend you go back and check it out on the WWE Network, because it is such a unique setting, a unique layout. I mean, they got motorbikes all around the ring and people just milling about in NWO shirts and all this sort of stuff.
And Eric Bischoff kissing middle-aged women.
Yeah, that was a bit weird, but it is worth checking out for the sheer difference in what everyone else was doing in 1997. But Yeah, the in-ring content isn't great, apart from this. Now, we start off with the introductions. Any WCW guy on this pay-per-view doesn't get their entrance music.
No.
Now,
And they get shit on the
Yes.
way to the ring as well. And Eddie, I think, suffers probably the worst because, as the title of the show today says, he's called a Mexican jumping bean multiple times, which, yeah, it's not a good look.
No.
Not a good look at all.
It is not. Nick Patrick referees every single match on the show.
Every match. And again, that's another thing that was overkill. I get that he's the NWO referee and it's an NWO show, but the fact he referees every match, it telegraphs everything that's going to happen. So I can kind of understand why it didn't sell as many pay-per-view bars as they expected, because wrestling fans would have realized that it's going to be NWO centric. So the status quo is probably not going to change for the next episode of Nitro.
I'd also think as well. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm completely with you. I'm not disagreeing at all. That if the product is good enough, people will buy it. If the booking is good enough, and if the story is good enough going into the show, people will buy it. However, comparing it to the previous month's pay-per-view buy rates might be a little unfair, because that's
Starcade.
That's Starcade.
I get that. Yeah.
You know, and also
it's like comparing Backlash to Mania. I get it.
Yeah, and also this is sort of mid to late January. That's Royal Rumble season.
Yeah,
so they've got good competition.
I understand there's many factors, but looking at all the figures, this was not. It was not good metrics across the board.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Syxx gets announced as the US champion of the world, and that tickled me. That was so good.
Yeah, and I was telling you before, and when looking for the graphic for the show, this match is marked down as a cruiserweight match on so many different websites.
Yeah.
When it's not, it's for the US title, which kind of baffled me. Actually, it was getting me really mad. Actually, they were saying it was for the cruiserweight title, but yeah.
The action begins, and first of all, Eddy Guerrero stands out a mile, because this is everything in this arena is dark. It's black. It's greys. It's NWO. The ring ropes are black. The canvas is black. The referee is wearing a black t-shirt and sometimes a baseball cap as well.
Backwards.
Yeah, everything around it is NWO colors. Eddy Guerrero comes out in that white wrestling gear with the red on. He looks almost at times like he's glowing, where everything around him is so dark.
It looked like it was a homage to Jushin Thunder Liger to me.
Okay.
The kind of colouring, but yeah, he absolutely did stand out. But it was also, if you look at the Eddy Guerrero's pants and then look at Syxx's pants, they're very similar in design, but totally opposite colours. Like I think Syxx is like black and gold, and Eddie's red and white. So very kind of yin and yang, I suppose.
Yeah. Something else I think that doesn't help is, obviously we don't get the WCW entrance music. None of the WCW guys get entrance music. And the first time, or maybe even the second time that happens, and the ring announcer coming over the tannoy is mocking them. Again, first couple of times, pretty decent, but it wears thin very quickly. But the NWO guys, they're NWO. So they've all got the same music. Yeah. I mean, Hogan, the top NWO guys have the NWO music, but everyone else has like the B team music. And every match has the same entrance music, and it suddenly makes you realize how important that can be to the whole production and the whole feel of the show.
Yeah, it makes everything kind of like almost meld into one. Nobody really stands out in the NWO because of it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the only thing that makes like you said, the lower level NWO members stand out is, I suppose, the way that they're introduced, because they talk about Syxx as being like a legitimate karate fighter. And they even take the piss out of Glacier, which is a bit mean, considering that was an Eric Bischoff thing. But they also mentioned that he's been getting lots of training from Scott Hall, who apparently invented the ladder match. Because this, I think, is the first ever ladder match in WCW history. I think.
I can't think of any. I mean, I know Scottish Danny is in the chat, and we started in September '95 on Nitro Nights, and I don't think we've seen any Danny, have we? Let me know in the chat, my friend. He's got a better memory than I. So
yeah, so to kind of like say that Scott Hall invented the ladder match, yeah, it's a little bit on the nose considering he just lost the match previously.
Well, yeah, there we go. The action begins, as you'd expect, with two guys like this, like Eddy Guerrero and Sean Waltman, very, very fast, exchanging lots of arm drags and kicks and so on. Danny in the chat there saying, no, we haven't. Okay, so there you go. Yeah, Magsy, it looks like you're right. We get a bit of a mix-up, eh?
Look at me being correct for once.
Look at you, Captain Smarty Pants. We get a little bit of a mix-up where it looks like I think Syxx is going for a kind of side slam he used to do, where he'd pick them up and turn around and drop them. But Eddie thinks he's going for an elbow and drops to sell the elbow, and it looks a bit clunky, but it still kind of works for me because if it's a real athletic competition, if it's a real fight, those sort of things are going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Syxx goes to the outside quite quickly, and then Eddy Guerrero flies off the top rope to the outside, barely missing a motorbike. But that was quite spectacular.
I mean, he really overshot it, but it did look really spectacular. And just before we get to that point, there's a bit of an exchange, and we're seeing what Jim Ross would call those educated feet of X-Pac. He lays in some really stiff kicks. He does a spinning heel kick, and yeah, it lands flush on Eddy Guerrero's throat. Really, really, he really laid him in. These two were. It looked like an actual fight. These two were proper throwing shots at each other. Really good.
We at this point, I kind of felt that the crowd weren't massively into it, Max.
Yeah, the commentary were making out that Syxx was getting these massive cheers and that the crowd were loving the NWO, but there was a lot of people sat on their hands and a lot of people going maybe for a piss or for a drink, and there were a lot of empty chairs. I mean, it wasn't a massive arena in at the beginning, but it was very glaring when you see like a full row of people disappear and all you see is like the coloured seats. So yeah, the fans got bored very quickly in this pay-per-view.
Yeah. We get again lots and lots of kicks by Syxx, and then we get a suplex spot that we see quite often, but it's never actually completed that often, where the guys are either side of the ropes, one guy on the apron, one guy in the ring, and the tease is made that they're going to be suplexed out to the floor. But on this occasion, they actually do that, which is quite nice because quite a lot of the time it kind of gets teased and then doesn't happen, Magsy, does it?
Yeah, Eddie took a pretty stiff bump doing that as well.
Yes. Syxx then hits a plancha over the top rope, and this is when we go to the ladder.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, at this point, they have literally as Syxx hits that sort of flying move over the top rope, they almost miss that because the camera spans out to look at the belt hanging down from the ceiling. And you think WWE matches now, ladder matches or TLC matches or Money in the Banks, there's ladders everywhere, all around the outside and all this.
This has one. This is literally one ladder. This was like the WrestleMania 10 match. If the ladder broke, this match was fucked.
Yeah, exactly.
Luckily, it didn't, and we got the match. But yeah, one ladder. It's that's putting all your eggs in one basket, quite literally.
Yes, but
correct.
It was at this moment when the camera kind of pulls out and you see the belt hanging down. I went, "Oh yeah, it's a ladder match, isn't it?" Because I'd forgotten.
Yeah,
you know, because there wasn't the constant reminders on the outside and all that sort of stuff. You know,
and then the first kind of the first spot of with the ladder really is it's so telegraphed that it was actually really kind of making me cringe. So Syxx goes for the ladder. Obviously, we get the kind of like the ladder thrown into Eddy Guerrero, but the way that Syxx and Nick Patrick, who helps Syxx get the ladder in position, normally when you want a ladder in the ring, you slide it under the bottom ropes, and there you go. They stand the ladder on the apron, and it telegraphs exactly what's going to happen. We're getting the seesaw spot where somebody's going to get their face hit with the ladder. And guess what we get? We get the seesaw spot where Syxx gets hit with his face in the ladder. That annoyed me that spot was there.
Yeah,
because it's easy to set up in a way that doesn't make it as obvious as that. But when they didn't slide it under the rope, and they literally perfectly positioning it so that Eddy can basically drop to the floor and hit Syxx in the face. Yeah, it pissed me off that spot happened.
Yeah, fair enough. We get another kind of quite stiff shot with the ladder as well, I think, when Eddy Guerrero is Irish whipped into the corner and the ladder is stood in the corner and he just smashes into it face first. That looks painful. Yeah,
and there's another one where the ladder's in the corner. I think Syxx is gonna try and do the leapfrog over the top of the ladder. And we get Ted DiBiase going, "Oh, I know what he's going to do here. I definitely know what he's going to do. I've seen this before." And then Eddy basically chop blocks Syxx. He gets his nuts smashed against the ropes. And then the ladder barely misses cracking Eddy in the leg. That would have been, I bet that would have been painful because it misses his ankle by millimeters.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was at this point when the ladders hit the deck and everyone's on the deck as well. And you've got the big NWO logo on the mat, both guys on the mat, the ladder led there. That I thought to myself, wow, I don't know if it was the camera angle or what. That ring looks bloody tiny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, WCW rings were quite small anyway, weren't they? What, the 16 by 16s?
I think they were 18 by 18 because the WWE rings were 20 by 20, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Yeah.
We then get a series of moments where both guys, well, you can see the image that Magsy has up for us there behind our beautiful little faces. Both guys climb the ropes at the same time. And this, climb the ladder at the same time. And this is, a well-worked spot, a constantly revisited spot in many ladder matches from the start of these contests to present day. But here we get a repetition of that spot, I think 3 times.
Yeah,
back didn't we?
And one thing I did appreciate was, and it's another bugbear with ladder matches, that when wrestlers are climbing the ladders, they suddenly become the most tired people on the face of the earth, and they're dragging themselves up one rung at a time. Syxx and Eddy Guerrero, to their respect, the first time they tried a spot on the ladder, they both climbed the ladder like a normal human being would climb a ladder. And that spot ended with Syxx doing a flying heel kick to knock Eddy Guerrero off. I think the second one was a little bit. I want to say it looks set up because Syxx throws Eddy off, but Eddy way oversells the landing, bounces off the ropes and bounces into the ladder to knock Syxx off, which I assume I get that was the point, but it just looked overkill. That it was telegraphed. But the third time they try it, and this is where the finish comes in. For a ladder match, I thought that this was pretty unique.
Yeah. I mean, I think it looks a bit clumsy and a bit off, maybe. Maybe it doesn't tick all the boxes, but I think they should be applauded for trying to do something different. I mean, how many times have we seen somebody fall off the ladder and then pretend to lie there dead whilst the other guy gets the belt? Or, I think the amount of ladder matches we've seen, it can be difficult doing something different. And this is different. So, fair play to them. Both are at the top again, and both guys get the belt. Both guys take the belt down. And then Eddy Guerrero hits Syxx with the belt. They
Whilst
both dropped
both
to the
have
floor.
still got hold of the belt,
Yes.
that's the salient point, that there is no winner as of yet
Mhm.
because they've both got the belt. So whilst they both got hold of it, Eddie hits Syxx with the belt, he falls, the belt falls, and Eddie basically jumps down and retrieves the belt. And again, the commentary pissed me off because there was no emotion shown about it at all. There was no, even if the result didn't go the NWO's way, you'd think there'd be like anger or disappointment. But Ted and Eric just, they sounded like they didn't give a shit. It was ridiculous.
I think the issue you've also got is that it's 2 heel commentators.
Yeah.
And you could have quite easily got around that by having, I don't know, Tony Schiavone there.
Yeah, as a mediator.
Yeah, but being told, oh, you're contracted to work pay-per-views, so you have to work it or you lose your job. So it explains why he's on an NWO. Again, use quotation marks there, an NWO pay-per-view as they tried to sell it. But it makes sense then, all of a sudden, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just so one-sided.
Yeah, I think Bischoff. What I've seen on Nitro Nights is that Bischoff is pretty good as a play-by-play guy. I quite like him
but as
doing
colour is
Right.
awful.
But I think when the turn happens and Bischoff joins the NWO, and obviously with our Nitro Nights project, we've not actually hit that point yet. But when it does happen, and then he starts doing commentary, he has Schiavone alongside him, or he has Mike Tenay alongside him. So he is then playing the bad guy NWO guy, and it works because he's good in that role as well.
You need that. You need that person to feed off. I mean, look at one of our favorite combinations with Paul Heyman and Jim Ross. In that alliance era, they were golden because Paul Heyman had Jim Ross to feed off.
Yeah.
Here with Ted DiBiase, who is terrible on commentary anyway. I mean, every single time he's been on commentary, it's been horrific. Eric Bischoff doesn't have that kind of that filter, and it becomes sanctimonious and
Well, for me, it's
slapping.
For me, it's he has to play the NWO guy role because he's gone so far into it at this point. He refers to himself as the king, and it's good to be king, and all that sort of stuff. I mean, even at the end of the pay-per-view, when they used to have the cast list, didn't they, all the credits run at the end of WCW pay-per-views, it says executive producer Eric Bischoff, aka the king. Even on that, so he's gone 100% invested in this gimmick. So he has to still portray the slimy NWO arrogant heel. But he's also supposed to be doing the play-by-play, and I don't think you can do both. I think he's literally given himself an impossible task.
Yeah, you need that balance. You definitely need that balance.
Yeah. Okay. Out of 10, then, Maxie, what are we thinking?
Now, it's certainly the best match on this card, but that's not exactly something to write home about. In terms of a ladder match, I've seen better, I've seen more exciting, and I think this match for me proves just how important the crowd and the commentary is to making a good match seem like an excellent match. But judging it from the in-ring work, these were two of the most underappreciated wrestlers in WCW at this time. And they stole the show for me. But it's not a hard show to steal. So I think I'm happy with giving it a 7.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. That's exactly what I got. 7 out of 10. Exactly. I think some of the high spots from both guys, flying from in the ring to the outside or off the top to the outside, are spectacular, and that always earns points to me, provided it's not too crazy and predetermined. I guess people stood there waiting to catch them and so on. And I enjoy a ladder match anyway. I think this one's done very well in the way that it's not about the ladder, if you know what I mean. Similar to nowhere near as good, but Shawn and Scott Hall had a great WrestleMania match at WrestleMania 10 that happens to have a ladder involved. It wasn't a match about the ladder.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of heading that same direction. This is a great ladder match, but it's not about the ladder. It's about the two guys, and they do enough without the ladder as well. But it's a bit clunky in places. And yeah, I think 7's decent enough. 7's fair enough, I think, for me.
Agreed.
There we go then. There we go. But I also do recommend people go and have a little look. Maybe in a couple of months' time when we hit it with Nitro Nights, people can check it out as well. It's a very unique show.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a show worth watching just for seeing how far WCW tried to push the NWO, and you could see where they'd gone too far. And it should have been reined back a little bit.
Yeah, you're spot on, mate. You're spot on. So then, are you going to surprise us all and absolutely piss off the CWF and Cam Griffin and is going to want to track you down in Burnley? Or are you going to be, true to your word? Where do we go next week?
So, when I watched the match earlier this week and then rewatched it again earlier today, my instant thought went to WrestleMania, because we finally getting a match that that's been coming for the last couple of years, but really it's been built for the last 2 decades. So it was confirmed this week that at WrestleMania, we're going to see Ray take on his son Dominic, and that made me think of the first time we really got a Dominic storyline, and with Ray versus Eddy in a ladder match for the parenthood, for the parental rights to Dominic, and I thought that would be a brilliant place to go. Should I Boris Johnson these bastards and promise something and then not deliver? Should this be my oven-ready Brexit deal when really I'm gonna feather my own nest? But no, I am not a Boris Johnson. I'm gonna Keir Starmer these guys, and I'm gonna give them Gilbert. But I'm not just gonna give them one Gilbert, because one Gilbert match is around about 30, 40 seconds. So there's not really much meat on the bones there. So I'm going to start. First of all, the link. I need to be able to link it to the last match. And the link is the light heavyweight title. Syxx, aka X-Pac, was a former light heavyweight champion. So pretty easy link there. Gilbert only ever had one run with the light heavyweight title, which is shocking for a glittering career such as his.
So underutilized.
I mean, you are not wrong. So, firstly, I want to visit the episode of Raw from the 17th of November, 1998, where Gilbert wins the light heavyweight title by defeating Christian. Then, this may be a push because I don't know if it's actually on the network, but I'm sure we'll be able to find a way around it. I want to scoot forward to the 16th of February, 1999, and on an episode of Sunday Night Heat, Gilbert has a European title match against Shane McMahon. Unfortunately, comes up just a little bit short. Then I want to scoot forward a little bit more, this time till the 31st of August 1999. And on the 3rd ever episode of SmackDown, Gilbert had a World Heavyweight title match against Triple H. Again, just about coming up short. And finally, on the 8th of February 2000, Gilbert drops his WWF light heavyweight title. Bear in mind, he won this at the tail end of 1998. So this guy has Roman Reigns this title all the way through to the 2000s.
Oh, listen to you.
And he drops this belt to S.A. Rios on an episode of Sunday Night Heat. So that's, and on my birthday as well, how can they do me dirty like that? On the 8th of February, they made Gilbert the longest reigning, undisputed, universal light heavyweight champion of the world lose to S.A. Rios on Sunday Night Heat. So those are the 4 matches that we'll cover. I don't just deliver, I over-deliver.
Why? And the thing is, all 4 of those matches will probably fit into about 15 minutes.
Right, so I'll give a spoiler alert. He loses the title in 46 seconds. His world title match, it's almost as long as an Asylum cage match. That goes 1 minute 53. His match against Shane McMahon, it's a little bit shorter, 20 seconds. But the match, and this is an epic, the match where he wins the title, 2 minutes 28 seconds.
Bloody hell. So less than 10 minutes then, really.
For 4 matches spanned over 2 years.
Oh, why?
This is the show that keeps on giving.
Why? Okay. Now, I had 2 mindsets going into this poll. The first was, should I also link to Gilbert? Because it's obvious what's going to happen. The CWF are going to vote for this because they've all wanted it for so long. And there's a lot of comedy potential there. And there's loads of links out as well with all the different titles and shows and opponents and so on. But then I thought, both of us linking to that kind of hurts the integrity of the show.
What?
So I thought I've got to
of this show.
I thought I've got to put something up as an alternative. But at the same time, yeah, exactly like we're seeing in the chat now. King Pigsbladder says Sai gets a participation award this week. Dan Griffin saying, yeah, you're fucked this week's site. Yeah, totally. So I'm going to put something up on the poll that I don't expect to win. It's going to be absolute shite because it's going to get trounced.
If it's Barry Windham versus Lex Luger.
No, mate. I wouldn't waste a Barry Windham match on this. On a week
we all
I
know
know
it's just Barry Windham with some face paint and a mustache.
On a week when I know I'm going to get trounced in the poll, I'm not going to put up something I actually want to watch. No chance. I'm going to use Nick Patrick as the link. And we're going to, well, my option that will nowhere. I'd be surprised if it gets any votes. If this gets more than 5% in the poll, I will be stunned because everyone wants to see Gilbert. Nick Patrick is the link. Nick Patrick had a wrestling match in Invasion 2001.
You are an arsehole. Against the Earl Hebner match.
And it's Nick Patrick versus Earl Hebner. Just to put something up, mate, because I'm going to get destroyed. You know? And it sort of keeps
you're
in
not
line
even,
with some
You're
of
not
your
even
options
making it a challenge now. You've given up.
No, I've given an alternative, my friend. But we have kind of promised for a while a Gilbert appreciation evening. And what better weekend in the wrestling calendar to do that than the weekend of WrestleMania?
I am going to butter the electorate a little bit more as well because
I don't think you need to.
Next week is Mags versus Sa. And I think that we should go the whole hog and have Mags versus Sa and the topic be Gilbert.
5 questions each, like before.
If we can get 5 different questions each, let's do it. In fact, I'm even going to go one better. And one of the stalwarts of the CWF, I'm going to get Scottish Danny to write my questions. So, Scottish Danny, DM me with 5 Gilbert questions, please, sir.
See, you're only doing that because Gilbert spent so much time on Sunday Night Heat, and Scottish Danny is a Sunday Night Heat expert.
I mean, he was on Shotgun Saturday Night quite a few times as well.
Danny likes that weekend shit as well. Oh, there we go then. Your poll next. Well, I say poll. What we're looking at next week will be.
This is going to be a trouncing on the levels of Labour's next election victory.
Oh my goodness.
You are losing all of your seats in the House of Commons, sir.
We have Gilbert Appreciation Night. 4 title matches. The opponents being Christian for the light heavyweight title, Shane McMahon for the European title, Triple H for the world heavyweight title, and S.A. Rios for the light heavyweight title. A combination of Raw, Sunday Night Heat, SmackDown, because obviously Gilbert got everywhere. Or we have
he was a fighting champion.
Or we have the 2 minute 30-second masterclass that is Nick Patrick versus Earl Hebner at the Invasion pay-per-view in 2001. The poll will be up later in the week. Make sure you vote, retweet, etc., etc., etc. Magsy, what have we got in the chat, my friend?
I have never smiled as much in all of my life. I'm genuinely. I mean, the Gilbert thing was a piss take, but I'm genuinely excited to watch a handful of Gilbert matches in the time it takes to have an ad break during Hollyoaks. That's amazing.
Well, this is it.
Scottish Danny says Christian may be the only man to have faced Goldberg and Gilbert. Yeah, I mean, that might be worth a check on a cage match, actually. Oh, Triple H did. That's true.
Okay.
Gilbert defended the title on the Indies too, better than Roman. Yeah, he was a fighting champion. He really, really was. I mean, he faced Takumi Shinoku, Mark Miro. He was part of the Job Squad, if we remember. He teamed up with the Blue Meanie a lot. The guy he paid his dues and then got the title matches that he so heartedly deserved. Sa is getting a partition award this week. Yeah, you're fucked this week, Sa.
Yes, indeed.
And you did let Dan down by not having a Barry Windham match. Barry Windham versus Dwayne Gill. I mean, is that a match that you could have had?
That happen?
Oh,
I'm gonna look that
I mean,
up.
You've got to remember that Dwayne Gill was one of the executioners as well. So he did do the rounds. Perhaps he did. I know they had a lot of house show matches with the head shrinkers. Scottish Danny's in your side. It looks like he's gone for the epic referees match. If you'd have picked Barry, you'd get my vote. So you've missed a trick there, sir. King's Pig's Bladder.
I'd have got one vote. Look, bloody hell. That's one more than I'm gonna get.
Dan Griffey says, if ever I wanted to do a 50-50, I mean, this would be the ideal time to do a 50-50 because it's still about 14 minutes of wrestling to cram in. So if you want a 50-50, lads, absolutely go ahead. King's Pig's Banners, again, he's the same. 50-50 would be awesome. And Dan says, 5 Gilbert matches, guess the length, closest wins. There you go. That's amazing. He's actually lasted quite a bit of time sometimes. He's 3 minutes 32, 2 minutes 17, 56 minutes 38. But that was a Royal Rumble that he was involved in, and he wasn't in it for all of that time, remember? But yeah, it's going to be fun next week. This is the best one for a 50-50. Barry Horowitz and Wyndham versus Gill never happened according to Cage Match. What? That's leaving money on the table right there, isn't
That's
it?
disgusting.
Ridiculous.
Imagine the high quality 5-star Dave Meltzer Tokyo Dome contest Dwayne Gill could have carried Barry to.
I know, shocking. But yeah, vote Mags for Gilbert.
There we go. Thank you so much, everybody in the chat, for joining us again, and all your fantastic comments and all the tweets, the votes, all that great stuff everyone does. We love you all. It's been fantastic again. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes you sort of think, this afternoon I was a bit like, bloody hell, chain wrestling here, and it's not like I didn't want to do it. I was still looking forward to it, but I wasn't as enthusiastic after watching this match. And I said to Sharon, no doubt when it starts, I'll bloody love it. And I did. I absolutely loved it. You know, so, and it's testament to yourself, Magsy, and to everyone in the chat as well. I love doing this show. Everyone everyone in the CWF are just fantastic, aren't they?
Yeah, I can't echo those thoughts enough. For me, the wrestling it's like the end credits of the show. The bit that we cling to as a topic, when really it's all about chatting with you guys and listening to the ridiculous situations you've been in and the ridiculous situations that we've been in, and just having a chin wag with very good friends. We absolutely love all of you. You are absolutely amazing, and we say it pretty much weekly, but this is your show, and it would not have been 100+ episodes old if we'd have stuck with the original format. You guys have made this show way much better than it ever was, so we'll always appreciate you for that.
Exactly.
Vote
I cannot
Gilbert.
agree enough. Vote Gilbert, yes, indeed. Magsy, whereabouts can people find you online? And no doubt this week they will be able to find you online as you drum up support for your Gilbert.
I don't think I need to. I think this is it's a sure thing. This is when you put a weak candidate in because you know that they're never going to vote for the opposition. So
that was my mindset.
Yeah. I mean, I may be around actually this weekend because it's WrestleMania, and I'll definitely be watching both Nats and NXT and the Hall of Fame. So yeah, you might find me down here on the Twitter at PodfatherMags, or follow me on TikTok at Mags All Pods, where I haven't made a video in a long time, but in the very near future, I think I'll be having some new additions to my TikTok video repertoire, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Sarnos, and that's it. But yeah, follow me on TikTok and on Twitter.
I do know, and I'm not going to, give it away, but this isn't what, I know of, but I'm saying if we don't get a Gilbert TikTok video this week from your good self, then there's something seriously wrong with this world.
I mean, I can make it happen.
There we go. Anything I am involved in, you can find on the network that carries this show. That's SJP World Media on all your podcast player platforms and providers. Make sure you're giving us a follow. Subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Subscribe on all your, Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. Leave us a big fat 5-star review because we're bloody fantastic. And also follow the network on Facebook and Twitter as well at SJP World Media. But most importantly, you can follow this show, get involved in the poll and a non-wrestling topic at @chain_wrestling. That's at @chain_wrestling on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and that TikTok thingamy. But it's only Twitter and Facebook I use. I just roll that bit out now because it's just force of habit, I guess. But there we go. Thank you so much to everybody once again for joining us in the chat on the live show. Thank you so much in advance to everybody who will no doubt listen to the audio version later in the week, because you guys are fantastic as well. Remember, WrestleMania weekend, payday sale in the merch store. Get yourself some goodies. It helps run and fund the network and this show as well. Magsy, I'm off now to frantically search the internet for Barry Windham versus Shawn Michaels, because it must have happened somewhere. I'll speak to you next week, my friend.
That's a Sar fever dream if I've ever heard one.